Now I'm going to turn my attention to the electronics that go inside of the cabinet. Now the original chassis was quite rusty, quite nasty, and in the end I decided it was not worth restoring, especially because I scored this chassis off of eBay. Also, the original picture tube was broken. This chassis came with a picture tube, but I didn't really expect it to survive shipping, but indeed it did, and it does test good, so I will be using it. This is exactly the same chassis. It's an Admiral 20Y1. The only little issue with this chassis is that it's missing something, which is all the controls and the tuner. So, I obviously need to replace them. Luckily, I was able to salvage all the controls out of the other chassis, and I think they are fine. So here is the combination power, volume, focus control, horizontal vertical hold, and brightness contrast, which leaves the tuner. I gotta dig around. I don't know if I was able to salvage the tuner from the original chassis. I think so. But if not, I've got others that I could use. So that is not a concern. Otherwise, looks to be in good condition. Also, it's missing the speaker. Somebody just clipped the wires. But again, I was able to salvage the speaker that originally came with this set. Need to repair a little bit of the speaker cone there, and it looks like there's some wiring damage here, but I think it's okay. It simply plugs in here. Fuel coil speaker forms part of the power supply. Not that they didn't have permanent magnet speakers then, but space was really premium in these sets, and there just wasn't room really to put a filter choke on the main chassis, so they used speaker. And you can see that the tube, the 5U4 rectifier tube, is mounted directly into the transformer again to save space. So let's examine the rest of this. Let's take a look inside here and see visually what condition the flyback is in. Here's the original power cord, which is stiff, but it might be usable. Oh, the end is kind of nasty. But these cheater cords don't grow on trees, so maybe what I can do is just simply put a new plug on the end, and I'll try heating this up, or maybe there's some other tricks for rejuvenating vinyl, which I believe is what these are made out of, to get it more pliable. So I fear if I start flexing this a lot, it's going to crack. This rubber band looks ancient. I wonder how long this chassis has been sitting around with cord laced up like that. Fused, which is great. Let's see if that fuse is still good, which is would be a good sign that this thing didn't get fried. Yeah, fuse is good. Alright. And visually it looks alright. You can also see that a number of the tubes are Admiral branded. Got back there, this one, that guy. Alright, so how about we take a look underneath. Okay, doesn't look too bad. I think it's pretty much all original. And when they took out the controls, I didn't butcher things too much. Obviously I'll have to figure out what controls with these wires. Hopefully they're still long enough that I won't have to run new wires, but if I do, it's not that big of an issue. Alright, so I'm just going to get to it. I'm going to mount those controls in and wire them up, I think, the first step, and then start recapping it. Here are those three controls mounted to the chassis. Now when it comes to wiring them in, well, I do have a copy of the original Admiral service manual, except one little problem. There's no schematic in it. I assume it's because somebody took it out, because it goes from page 44 to 49, so I think it was right in here. However, this entire thing was reprinted inside of the Writer's Service Info, Volume 4, so I was able to print out a schematic from that that matches up with the service info. It's just scaled down a bit small. So I could follow that up and try to make sense of the wires that were cut off. However, I do have another option. Just happen to have an Admiral 20X1 partially restored chassis nearby. And the differences between these two are very minor, so I think I can pretty well rely on this. And this also confirms something else I noticed right away when I started working down in this area, which was that this resistor seemed a bit odd. It wasn't actually wrapped around the solder terminals, it was just kind of lying against the lugs, and there were traces of an old component that was clipped out. Well, this is 6.8K. Schematic shows 8.2, and that's what's in here, and that sure does appear to be the original 8.2K resistor, so I will replace it with the correct value. After much searching, I finally found a tuner that should work. It's not the tuner I was looking for, the tuner that I thought I had salvaged from the old rusty chassis that came with this cabinet, but it's the same model as came from a chassis I scrapped out years ago. I'm still hoping the other one will turn up somewhere, but in the meantime I'm going to clean this one up and go ahead with it. So it's pretty dirty, a bit of corrosion on it, but otherwise it's intact. So basically you need to hook these three wires up for B+, filament supply, and AGC, and this is your signal out. And the antenna goes in here, which got clipped off, so I will have to thread a new bit of twin lead in here, which goes around through the chassis, and well, there's the remains of the other one, so it goes to the screw terminals on the back. Work is progressing nicely underneath the chassis. I've got the tuner installed, including some new twin lead going to the antenna terminals, and now I'm switching my attention to the top side. Just remove the high voltage cage so I can inspect and clean the high voltage components. I've blown a lot of dust out of here and still have a little more to go. And I really wanted to get down in here and check these resistors. This one in particular is in series with the high voltage lead, and that high voltage over time can do funky things to that resistor. And although this one measures okay, I'm inclined to replace it anyways while I've got things all exposed. Same goes for this 3.3 ohm, which is actually measuring a little high. That's in parallel with the filament on this tube, and I believe it's there to, oh no, it's in series, sorry. So it's there to prevent overload on that filament. So then burn out the tube. Oh, what else? Oh, I've also been working on electrolytics. There's enough room in this chassis that it's actually fairly easy to cut open the cans from the top. So I just used this little saw here and got in there and cut it off just above the shoulder there. And I can either just leave these as they are, and they're pretty secure, or I can take a corkscrew in here, pull that out, and glue that down for cosmetic reasons and to protect these caps a bit. And I'm doing the same over here. This one's a little bit tougher to get at, and that's another reason why I removed the high voltage cage, to get more room in here to get at those. So it's a nice way to do it when you can, because I didn't have to undo any connections down below. Cut the top off, clean this off, kind of eyeball where the terminals and wires are attached, and drill some holes down through here, and then work out which cap goes where, So there's a 3-section cap. I got my 3 electrolytics to replace it. Then I drilled a 4th hole for ground. So we just figure out which one goes where, connect all the negatives together, and run that down through the spare hole and attach it underneath the chassis to ground. And as usual, using these skinny caps, so plenty of room to fit them all in. This is fused just for the flyback, 1/4 amp fuse, and it does appear to be good, which is a good sign, as it means there's a decent chance that this flyback didn't get overloaded and it is operating, or will operate just fine. So we're pretty close. Speaking of that, so we got to wire these in, do a little bit of work here, close this back up. A little more work to do underneath, and then of course I reinstall the tubes. Got a picture tube in here, which is currently sitting right over there, and then I can try power up. I stayed up late tonight and finished recapping the set. Now, I haven't checked every single resistor value, but I did replace all the paper caps, got the tuner wired in, and replaced all the electrolytics. So that just leaves one little thing, which is what's supposed to plug in here, which is the speaker, which also has a field coil, which is essential to the correct operation of the power supply. And that's the inductor right there. Now, the original one that came with this set has some condition issues, in that there's a wire broken off. So I want to go over this and make sure that all the resistance checks out okay, and if it does, whenever you attach that wire, I will try plugging this in, and I think I will go with a little 5-inch test CRT for the first power up. And I got to replace some tubes. So this one got lost somewhere along the way, and then the tuner tubes were removed a long time ago, so I got to dig up some of those. But I have plenty of spares for all 3 of these, so that is no issue. Haven't tested any of the other tubes because I'm kind of curious to see how it works with all the original tubes this chassis came with installed. Alright, all the tubes have been replaced. The speaker seems to be okay, but I'm a little concerned that there are clearly 2 wires attached here, which are the voice coil terminals. This is the humbucking winding, I do believe, and that was disconnected, and clearly there were 2 wires attached here that were clipped out at some point. But otherwise, resistance readings seem to be okay. Now, what do I think will happen? What are my concerns? Well, I have not checked anything on this. The power transformer, flyback, vertical output transformer, but I've had really good luck with Admirals in the past, and I'm inclined to be optimistic about things. So, without further ado, let's turn on the PR57. Dial it about 117 and give this a try. Current draw seems reasonable. Tubes are all lighting up. I'll crack out of the speaker. Horizontal output tube is glowing a bit blue. But it's on the outside of the glass, I'm not too concerned. I'm also rather concerned about the tuner because it was not in the greatest condition. I had to do a lot of work on it. Alright, well, Well, that's a good sign. There's a little rattle coming out of the speaker, and it's increasing with the volume control. And the current draw seems reasonable, a little over an amp. Oh, hey, and how about that? We've got a raster. That's responding to the brightness control. Now it looks all messed up because I'm using a test CRT, which does not require a focus coil, and that's going to throw things off. And you can see when I push it all the way up to the yoke, it fills out the screen. So that's fantastic. That means horizontal output or horizontal oscillators running. The high voltage stuff seems okay. A little blue glow with the horizontal output tube is not all that unusual because it's on the glass, not the inside of the tube. Ooh. There's a crackle there when I adjusted the focus, but it seems to be okay. It is clearly adjusting the focus. Oh, hey! I can hear a little bit of sound. Got the volume cranked up all the way. I'm going to try feeding a signal. Oh, hey, it suddenly got better. And much better when I actually touch my finger to it. Alright, cool. So the tuner's doing something. I'm going to hook up a clear video signal and see if we can actually get an image on the CRT. So what the heck were we hearing? Well, those of you who've been watching my videos for some time know that we have had and still do have an analog NTSC broadcast on channel 6, which is kind of a quasi-FM radio station because the channel 6 is right on the edge of the FM band, and they have a much stronger audio carrier than video carrier, and I can quite often get sound in one of these old sets even with little to no antenna attached. Well, now I've got hooked up to an over-the-air ATSC to NTSC converter. So it's channel 6. Let's see. Ah, that should be the converter box. So at least the audio portion of the tuner is working. We got nothing resembling an image, but let's try adjusting the hole. Alright, let's go some vertical hole, horizontal hole, but no image. Crank the contrast up. Brightness.
There's nothing fit to print that describes those two. You know why Conowitz wrote that seventh of his? Because he was fed up with Beechek yapping at his heels. He wrote himself a sonata no one could play, who couldn't match the phenomenal...
Well, I recognize this episode just from the sound. This is Thriller. Terror in Teakwood. I think I need to adjust the Synchroglide circuit. I think the horizontal sync is really out of whack. So even when I adjust this horizontal hold all the way over, I think we're still really far off in the horizontal sync.
I want another piano in a hurry. No, it's all right. There is no time. No, the black letter L front.
Here,
the one I've always liked.
it's a coil accessible from the
you must hurry.
steering.
There is no much time. Good. I'll wait for it. As soon as you can, I have to tune it. Fine. Oh, Jerry. Thank heaven you've come. Now look at this. A disaster. Look at it. We'll knock the bolt so that no one will touch the piano. Who would do such a thing?
Yeah, and there is a faint image.
Don't you agree? Did you see a weird man with a limp around here? Yes, I did. He said he wanted to sing us the V-check.
And?
I told him to come back after the concert. You think he's the one that did this?
Maybe. Did you order another piano? Yes, it will be here soon.
So the contrast cranked up all the way, but there is an image.
Business about insurance. Now, we're not going to say anything about this.
I'm inclined to check next is the tubes. Could be some really weak tubes in here. Oh, I lost sync again.
He decided to play the card of its seventh. What? The card of its seventh? Well, Jerry, he's insane. He'll never do it. Never.
No, I just happen to have a mess of good 686s, so I just went ahead and replaced all the originals. Let's see if we have any improvement. Yeah, it's still not very good.
Brand name medicines and diabetic supplies is huge for me. If you are uninsured, have private insurance or Medicare,
I think it's a little better.
medical supplies sent directly to your home. Just call today and answer a few questions to learn how to get your free prescriptions and medical supplies. They even showed me how to get a free cell phone with 3 minutes. Call now and receive your free prescription card.
What I'm inclined to do now is, because it's working well enough, is go ahead and put the full size CRT in there, because this focus coil can really throw off
The
things.
following is an important message for all men. Are you urinating more frequently? Do you wake up to urinate? Are you having a slower, weaker stream? By 50, half of all men.
Alright, full size 12 LP4 CRT installed. And now I've got to contend with the ion trap magnet. And as always with these Admiral dual magnet traps, it's black to the back. I will have to find the sweet spot before I can expect to get any image out of it.
But the track is backed up on that avenue a mile long. You never saw anything like it. You're in the big city now, boy. Get in there and find yourself a dog corner. Take my decision to throw you out, so keep out of his sight. Gee, I'm sorry, Miss Frederick. I won't let it happen again. I promise.
Well, similar issue with the test CRT. It's weak video.
Too good to go unreported, Blackie.
But it's watchable.
So, I'm adjustable. I'm a good reporter.
But again, I have to have the contrast up all the way and brightness.
Unless he backs down.
If I go too high, it just gets all washed out.
It's his cue, Blackie. See, off the view.
And the focus controls are working as expected. So why weak video? Well, another issue could be 6AL5 detector tube. Okay, that's the sound detector, a ratio detector, and this is video. So I can try swapping those two. Simple enough. Otherwise, I got a stash of good 6AL5s I can try swapping out. And then I expect it needs an alignment, because especially in a tuner, because I had to do a bunch of work on it. There was a bunch of corrosion on it, and while removing it, I tweaked some of these, and I replaced some of the components inside. One capacitor was kind of falling apart. It's just a bypass, so I don't think it'd be too critical. And some of the resistors. But obvious next step is to go ahead and test all these tubes to make sure they're good. But hey, this is, as far as first powers go, this is fantastic. And whoa, oh yeah, we got a big difference there. Still have a very weak 6AL5 in the video detector. All right. And sure, the video's off center and all that. There are some centering controls on the back, and I can adjust the height. The vertical height and linearity is a bit messed up. But otherwise, I mean, this is working better than I had hoped on the first power-up, that's for sure.
Let's go. Peace or utter destruction. Subject